How's it going, everybody? I'm Stella Chung, and this is the Weekly Fix, the show where we round up all the gaming and entertainment headlines you may have missed this week. In a move that everybody totally saw coming, Sony released details on the upcoming PS5 Slim, and we've got everything you need to know about the console, its pricing, and much more. We've also got an update on the live-action Cyberpunk 2077 project, another Netflix price hike, and so much more. Let's get to it.
Sony has confirmed the heavily rumored PlayStation 5 Slim, which is due out this holiday season. The smaller PS5 design comes with 1TB storage, and you have the option to add an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive to the digital edition. In a post on the PlayStation blog, Sid Schumann, Senior Director, SIE Content Communications, said Sony created this new PS5, quote, to address the evolving needs of players. The post explains, our engineering and design teams collaborated on a new form factor that provides greater choice and flexibility. The same technology features that make PS5 the best to play are packed into a smaller form factor, along with an attachable Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive and a 1TB SSD for more internal storage. Now, I'm not sure how a slim model addresses the evolving needs of players, or how it provides greater choice and flexibility, considering this will be the only model available going forward. But the original PS5 model is quite the beast, so I do welcome a smaller form factor. The new PS5 has been reduced in volume by more than 30% and weight by 18 and 24% compared to the previous models. If you get the digital edition, you can add the Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive later, as it will be sold separately for $80. The new PS5 model will be available starting this November in the US at select local retailers and direct.playstation.com. It will continue to roll out globally in the months that follow. Once inventory of the current PS5 model has sold out, the new PS5 will become the only model sold. Beginning with the rollout in November at participating retailers, the PS5 with an Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive will be $500 and the digital edition will be $450. So it's actually having its price raised by $50. A horizontal stand is included with the new PS5 model. A new vertical stand, compatible with all PS5 models, will be sold separately for $30, so that's another price increase. This slim model has been rumored for a while now, but I'm a little surprised it's coming so soon. Sony has other hardware coming in November, the PlayStation Portal streaming handheld. It also has the Pulse Explorer wireless earbuds and the Pulse Elite wireless headset, although we're still waiting on release dates for those. Moving on, but sticking with PlayStation, reliable PS Plus leaker Bill Kuhn has revealed the next batch of games coming to the PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium game catalog in October. This partial leak reveals 8 of the games set to join PS Plus Extra on October 17th. They are Gotham Knights, the Dark Pictures anthology House of Ashes, Disco Elysium The Final Cut, Far Changing Tides, Gungrave Gore, Elite Dangerous, Dead Island Definitive Edition, and Alien Isolation. Disco Elysium The Final Cut launched last year and got a 10 out of 10 from IGN. We said it elevates Disco Elysium from an already phenomenal RPG to a true must-play masterpiece. On the flip side, Gotham Knights got a 5 out of 10. That one was disappointing. We called the Dark Pictures anthology House of Ashes Supermassive's best horror game since Until Dawn made it famous in our 8 out of 10 review. IGN fans seem pretty happy with this batch of games. Sony is expected to announce the full list of PS Plus Extra games for October later this week. And finally today, in the wake of a massive controversy regarding install fees, Unity's John Riccitiello is retiring as president, CEO, chairman, and member of the board of directors effective immediately. James M. Whitehurst, meanwhile, will be appointed interim CEO, president, and member of the board. The board will commence a search process to find a permanent CEO. Unity said Riccitiello will continue to advise the game engine maker to ensure a smooth transition. Yesterday's announcement did not specify why Riccitiello was stepping down, but in a statement, he said it's, quote, been a privilege to lead Unity for nearly a decade and serve our employees, customers, developers, and partners, all of whom have been instrumental to the company's growth. Unity came under fire on September 12th when it announced what it called a runtime fee, a new model that would, in short, see developers charge a small fee when someone downloads a game made on their engine once that game passes a certain revenue and install count threshold. Developers in the gaming community at large were quick to push back, with some considering delisting their games over the fee. Unity attempted to clarify the policy the following day, arguing that more than 90% of its customers will not be affected by this change. But it did little to placate users. Finally, on September 22nd, Unity walked back several aspects of the policy. However, several developers were quick to point out that Unity had already broken trust with the community. Riccitiello's tenure with Unity has been marked with several controversial moments, including apologizing to developers for describing anyone who doesn't embrace microtransactions as, quote, the biggest f***ing idiots. Riccitiello joined the platform in 2014 after departing EA, where he had also served as CEO. Unity remains one of the most important engines alongside Epic's Unreal Engine, powering major games including Pokemon Go, Hollow Knight, and Genshin Impact. However, Richitello's departure only serves to accentuate the sense of uncertainty surrounding the platform as it looks ahead to the future.
The Lord of the Rings Gollum was going to be the return of AAA gaming to the Lord of the Rings franchise. Well, the game was released back in May and not in a state it should have been released in. The game had bugs, unfinished gameplay ideas, boring levels, and subpar graphics. I mean, you name it, the game shipped with it. Now, according to German publication Game 2, anonymous sources within Gollum's developer, Daedalic Entertainment, are shedding some light into what happened. Apparently, the budget for the game was about 15 million euro, which is surprisingly small for what was touted as a AAA game. By comparison, CD Projekt Red spent about $80 million on just the Phantom Liberty expansion to Cyberpunk 2077. One source told Game 2 that, quote, there was an atmosphere of fear at the studio. Developers were afraid to speak up or else face reprisals from management. And to top it all off, the apology letter posted after Gollum's backlash was supposedly written by ChatGPT. Game 2's report does state that Daedalic had nothing to do with that letter and that it was the work of Gollum's publisher, Nacon. IGN's own sources corroborate some of the allegations, with some describing Daedalic's low pay, crunch, and toxic work culture as an open secret within the German gaming industry. If you want to learn more, check out Game 2's documentary on their YouTube channel. It is in German, but if you turn on closed captions, they'll be in English. Going back to CD Projekt Red for the second story, a new game developers union has formed in Poland as a result of a wave of layoffs that hit the developer. CDPR employees Paweł Miszka and Lev Key aim to represent all those working in game development in Poland. Earlier this year, CDPR let go of about 100 employees, or about 9% of their staff. The union, the Polish Game Dev Workers Union, said that there was, quote, a tremendous amount of stress and insecurity affecting our mental stress and leading to the creation of this union in response. Having a union means having more security, transparency, better protection, and a stronger voice in times of crisis. The above shows how employers tend to view their interests to be in conflict with those of their employees. While employees are the ones creating value in this arrangement, they lack any decision power in company structure-related matters. That is why we need to organize to enter those situations on equal footing. The layoffs, which happened in July, affect development, publishing, and back-office teams. CDPR explained that the layoffs were, quote, an alignment of the scale and size of the team with the requirements of the ongoing projects and the CD Projekt Group strategy. This change in approach, along with efforts to build more effective project teams, represents a continuation of an ongoing transformation which the company regards as key to making top-quality games, published on schedule and developed without undue crunch. The Polish Game Dev Workers Union joins other new game industry unions, such as the ones forming at Avalanche Studios and Sega of America. PlayStation owners got to be the first in the gaming public to play Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3's beta, and there's already claims of cheating. Ex-user Duckies posted a video showing what appear to be wall hacks and aimbots in the PS5 version of the game. Activision has not commented on these particular claims, but it has a new anti-cheat system, Ricochet, that will be implemented in Modern Warfare 3. Listen, I know it's impossible to hit every hacker since new tech comes out so quickly, but Call of Duty is pretty notorious for having hackers in every game. It's gotten pretty bad recently too, which is frustrating since hackers are both in Warzone and multiplayer, so it really feels like you can't escape them. I mean, people being able to get hacks into the PS5 specific early access beta is pretty wild, and honestly, it's a little bit telling about their anti-cheat infrastructure. But Call of Duty did implement a lot of updates to try and combat hackers and griefers in games with their new chat moderation system that uses TalkSpot. This is an AI-powered voice chat moderation tool that can recognize things like hate speech, harassment, and discriminatory speech towards players. It includes text filtering across 14 languages, as well as help with reporting and enforcing the code of conduct. The voice chat moderation tool is currently in beta until November 10th for Modern Warfare 3, so hopefully this means at launch the game will be in a more stable state with less hackers and griefers all around.
CD Projekt aims to expand its Cyberpunk 2077 universe further with a mysterious live-action project. Announced today, the unnamed project is a collaboration between CD Projekt and Anonymous Content, the production company behind True Detective and Mr. Robot, as well as Academy Award-winning films like The Revenant and Spotlight. CD Projekt is working with Anonymous Studios head of television Garrett Kimball, director of development Ryan Schwartz, and chief creative officer David Levine, the latter of whom was previously HBO's EVP and co-head of drama for over 10 years, where he oversaw production of series such as True Detective, Westworld, and True Blood. He was also involved in the production of the early seasons of Game of Thrones, you know, the good ones. CD Projekt with a K said this project with a C is at an early development stage, and the hunt is on for a screenwriter to tell a brand new story set in the world of Cyberpunk 2077. The developer enjoyed huge success with its Netflix animated spin-off Cyberpunk Edgerunners, so it comes as little surprise to see the company expanding the franchise even more. While it's currently only being called a live-action project, since they're working with television executives, we can probably assume this will be a series. Here's hoping they can match the quality of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, which was incredible. But this isn't the only Cyberpunk news today. Cyberpunk 2077 has surpassed 25 million units sold, outpacing The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Speaking during the CD Projekt Red Investor Day presentation, President and CEO Adam Kaczynski announced the new figure, which is up 5 million from September last year. The Phantom Liberty expansion has also sold 3 million units within its first week. Kaczynski said this means Cyberpunk, which obviously struggled through a brutal launch, is outpacing The Witcher 3's performance. Cyberpunk has reached the 25 million sold mark within around 2 years and 10 months, while The Witcher 3 didn't reach 25 million until around the 4.5-year mark, Kaczynski said. As for Phantom Liberty, 68% of copies were sold on PC, 20% were sold on PlayStation 5, and 13% on Xbox Series X and S. CD Projekt Red also shared that Cyberpunk's one and only expansion cost approximately $62.7 million to develop and approximately $21.6 million to market. Indeed, Cyberpunk 2077 is probably the greatest comeback story in all of gaming. And finally today, Sony has begun contacting thousands of current and former staff impacted by recent data breaches after a ransomware group claimed last week it had accessed the company's systems. As reported by Bleeping Computer, Sony has now informed employees of its Sony Interactive Entertainment division whose data were exposed. The outlet wrote that the notification was sent out to about 6,800 individuals impacted by the breach. The breach was due to a file transfer software employees at Sony and other companies use. Sony did not immediately respond to IGN's request for comment. In the letter Sony sent out to victims, as uploaded by Bleeping Computer, Sony admitted that 2 data breaches occurred. The first happened on May 28th, before Progress Software notified Sony and other companies using the software of the breach. Sony would then discover a second breach on June 2nd when it detected someone initiating unauthorized downloads, which resulted in the company turning the platform offline until it fixed the vulnerability. Alongside disclosure of the data breach, Sony also informed victims of the attack that they are being offered Equifax credit monitoring and identity restoration services. The data breach is one of the biggest to hit the PlayStation Maker in recent years, with the most infamous occurring in 2011 when PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Portable networks suffered a severe outage lasting nearly a month. 77 million accounts were compromised.
Well, would you look at the time? We need to take a break, but when we come back, we're looking into a possible The Last of Us 2 remaster leak, how Netflix is going to get more money from its subscribers, and much more. Stay tuned. And we're back. The weather is changing, and it's about time for another Netflix price increase. Why, you ask? It rhymes with hike and starts with an S. But before we get to why the SAG strike may affect your monthly Netflix bill, we're going to get into the next season of Castlevania Nocturne and how Naughty Dog may have accidentally leaked The Last of Us 2 Remastered. Check it out.
A remaster of The Last of Us Part 2 may have leaked today via the LinkedIn account of a lead outsource artist at Naughty Dog. Mark Pajarillo, an artist who worked on last year's The Last of Us Part 1, a remastered version of 2014's The Last of Us Remastered, which was a remaster of the original 2013 version of The Last of Us, stated that he's working on The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered in a now deleted post, and I am sorry for dumping that gigantic mess of a paragraph on you on a Friday, but you can blame Naughty Dog for that one. The Last of Us Part 2 was originally released for PS4 in 2020, months before the PS5 launched that fall, and then received an official PS5 patch in March 2021, but it might now be getting a full remastered version for PS5, and yep, once again, that's another very confusing paragraph. Mark's LinkedIn page stated that he was responsible for overseeing the production of all outsourced environment art assets, weapons, and interactive props for 2 iconic titles, The Last of Us Part 1 and The Last of Us 2 Remastered. He has now deleted the mention of The Last of Us 2 Remastered, and although his page did reference 2 iconic titles and only listed 1, well, it has since been updated to only reference Part 1. Anyway, would you play a remaster of The Last of Us Part 2, even though it already runs great on your PS5? And if so, would you pay $70 for it like The Last of Us Part 1 cost when it came to PS5? Or will you hold off for a remaster of The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, which will probably come out in a few years? Or maybe you would like a remake of The Last of Us Part 1 Remastered, or possibly a remaster of HBO's hit show The Last of Us. based on the Naughty Dog game The Last of Us, or The Last of Us Remastered? Let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned to IGN's upcoming list, the top 100 remasters of The Last of Us. Moving on, Telltale Games has once again laid off most of its workers, and if that sounds familiar, it's because the studio already did that in 2018 when it laid off a significant number of employees before closing entirely in 2019, only to re-emerge a year later, hiring a number of its former workers as well. Telltale has confirmed that it has undergone layoffs in a statement sent to IGN, but did not confirm the number or extent, stating, "Due to current market conditions, we regrettably had to let some of our Telltale team go recently. We did not take this action lightly, and our commitment to storytelling and finding new ways to do so remains the same. We are grateful to everyone for their dedication along this journey, and we are working to support everyone impacted. All projects currently in development are still in production, and we have no further updates at this time." Now, at the Game Awards in 2019, Telltale announced it was working on a sequel to The Wolf Among Us for a planned release in 2023. Earlier this year, IGN sat down with Telltale CEO Jamie Otley, who explained the game was being delayed due to struggles porting it from Unreal Engine 4 to 5 and a desire to avoid crunch. It does not currently have a new release date. Now, while 2023 has been an undeniably awesome year for video games, it's also been an absolute bloodbath for game developers, and these layoffs come as part of an ongoing trend of industry mass layoffs that have impacted a number of major studios this year and last. Now, these include layoffs at Naughty Dog, Team 17, Ascendant, Blizzard, BioWare, Epic Games, Blackbird Interactive, Striking Distance, BioWare again, Ubisoft, Scavenger Studios, CD Projekt Red, Embracer Groups, numerous subsidiaries, Deviation Games, The Molasses Flood, Relic Entertainment, Xbox, Riot Games, Unity, and so many more. My heart goes out to everyone impacted by these layoffs, and I hope you land on your feet and get back to making awesome games that we all love very soon. And I also hope the billionaire CEOs at the top of all these companies get a stomach virus that lasts an eternity. And finally, and there's really no great way to transition this, but speaking of viruses you can put in your stomach, a bakery named One House Bakery in Benicia, California, has created a life-size clicker from The Last of Us made entirely out of bread, aptly named The Last of Crust. Yeah, all right. Sure, why not? The mother and daughter duo, who apparently are both big fans of the HBO show, spent over 400 hours creating this bread-dead zombie monster and plan to submit it in a local scarecrow contest, which is weird because the last I checked, crows love bread because they are birds. Like that, it seems like the fastest way to get a bird on something rather than scare them away is to make it entirely out of bread. And the whole point of scarecrows is to scare stuff away. So I don't know if like it's a functional scarecrow contest or if it's just how they look. I don't know if they're gonna unleash birds there, and if the birds get scared and go away, then that person wins. Because I feel like if a bunch of crows land on your thing and they eat you, then you should lose a scarecrow contest. But if it looks cool and if it's just based on that, then then maybe you should win. And anyway, this is not the first Pedro Pascalajation's show that One House Bakery has made a life-size bread person based on, as the bakery also made a Pandalorian and a Baby Yoda for, you guessed it, the hit show The Mandalorian, featuring Baby Yoda.
In a move that'll likely upset subscribers, Netflix is reportedly cooking up a plan to raise subscription prices after the actors' strike ends. Now, according to a Wall Street Journal report, the streaming giant will hike up the price of its ad-free plans months after SAG-AFTRA strikes a deal with Hollywood. Now, it's unclear how much pricing will increase or why the streaming service is even planning for this increase. And we're also not 100% certain on the validity of the Wall Street Journal report, as there's no direct comment from Netflix. But it wouldn't be a surprise to see an increase in its services. Now, last year we saw an increase across the board from Netflix's subscription offerings. And earlier this year, Netflix implemented its password sharing crackdown with the option to pay an extra $7.99 to share an account with someone outside of your primary household. Now, there could be some credence to this report, however, as with the new contract worked out with the WGA, streaming services will now have to share certain streaming data with its writers so that they can track the performance of the content they worked on. Plus, there's a minimum compensation increase of 18% for writers who worked on high-budget films on streaming services, with a 26% residuals increase. Now, overall, that's about a 0.2% take of Netflix's annual revenue. Now, similar stipulations could be worked out on the SAG side of things, which could be why Netflix is supposedly planning on increasing its subscription prices. Instead of taking on the cost themselves, it'll look to offset that cost by raising prices for consumers. Again, not something a lot of people will be happy to hear, but hearing this news, share your thoughts on this potential price increase after the SAG strike ends down below. Now in other news, we have a new picture of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker thanks to director Todd Phillips. Now Joker Folie à Deux is set to release next year, October 4th, and in honor of the movie being a year away, Phillips teased this image of Joker embracing the rainy weather in Gotham. As this is in fact going to be a musical, perhaps this is a nod to the classic 1952 film Singing in the Rain. Now Phillips captioned the photo, quote, October 4th, thanks for all the messages. 4 years ago, we had quite a ride. Lots of great memories, more to come. Now the film will also see Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Now you might remember seeing this photo of Gaga walking down court steps in Gotham. Now Todd Phillips previously shared a photo on Valentine's Day, giving us our first glimpse of the psychotic couple together. Though in that one, Lady Gaga hadn't yet donned the clown makeup. That was her as Dr. Harleen Quinzel, with Todd sharing a more close-up image of her as Harley Quinn to celebrate the film's wrap. Now between the first film and the images Todd Phillips has teased, we have a small idea as to what the movie will look like. But few details are actually known about what audiences can expect from the plot of the film. All we know is that it'll be a psychological thriller with musical elements thrown in for good measure. How that'll play out remains to be seen. To note, the movie will be part of the new DC Elseworlds set of films, which exists outside the scope of the mainline DCU movies James Gunn and Peter Safran have planned. And finally, in sad news for iCarly fans from around the globe, the reboot, revival, continuation, whatever you want to call it, on Paramount Plus has been canceled after 3 seasons. In a statement, a Paramount Plus spokesperson said, quote, iCarly will not be returning for a 4th season on Paramount Plus. The series had a great 3-season run and delivered on what fans really wanted to see, with Carly and Freddie finally getting together. We want to thank the entire cast, the writers, directors, and producers, along with the whole crew for their dedication, creativity, and talent. Now, I'm pretty sure you all knew there was an iCarly revival with some of the original cast returning, but I know for certain you didn't know that there were 3 seasons worth of the series on Paramount Plus. Like, time sure does fly by when you're really not paying attention. But if you are in fact curious, you can check it out on the streaming service if you have the time.
Netflix's Castlevania Nocturne was just renewed for a 2nd season, and I am so happy because this sequel to the first Castlevania animated show started off really strong, and it set up a lot of things that can happen for season 2. Netflix renewed Nocturne just a week after the first season debuted. Sam and Adam Dietz will co-direct the next season, which showrunners Clive Bradley and Kevin Cold said, quote, follow the next chapter in the rise of Richter Belmont. In an X video teasing season 2, we got a short trailer sketch of all the main characters in the show, but no major plot points were revealed. But there was a focus on Alucard in the announcement post. Nocturne takes place 300 years after the end of Castlevania's 4th season and follows the story of Richter Belmont, a descendant of Trevor and Sypha. While I do miss the original duo, it's been really fun to watch the progression of Richter and his friends as they navigate through this new world with a vampire messiah trying to rule the world. I don't want to spoil anything for y'all, but please watch the show if you like anime or Castlevania, or honestly both. It's very good and the fight scenes are animated so well. The first full season is out now, so you can also binge it. If you've ever wanted science lessons from a Jedi Master, great news! Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, is giving some Star Tours in a new series of shorts called From Science Fiction to Science Fact. The series is produced by the US Department of State, and it's highlighting some of the scientific discoveries made not just by NASA, but through collaboration with other countries on board the International Space Station. The videos examine a range of topics, including how exercise in zero gravity works, medical application of robots, and how microbes are detected. And as the show's title suggests, it compares real-world science to how it's been depicted in sci-fi media over the years. You can check out the show for yourself at stories.state.gov/space. There's some really interesting information, and also, hey, it's free Mark Hamill. Breaking Bad is one of the best TV shows of all time. Actually, the best show of all time as voted by IGN readers. So it's understandable that fans might want more of it. But if you're hoping for a sequel series that explores Walter White Jr. following in his father's footsteps, don't hold your breath. Oh, and if you haven't seen Breaking Bad, which, what are you doing? Mild spoilers ahead. Variety recently interviewed Breaking Bad creator Vince Gilligan, and he reflected continuing the White family story. "Every now and then I find myself thinking about those characters, daydreaming about what would have happened," he said. "I'd like to believe things get better for them. I'd hate the thought of Walter Jr. following in Walt's footsteps in the crime business. That's probably the kind of thing somebody will pitch 10 or 15 years from now. Walter Jr. as an Albuquerque crime lord succeeding where his father failed." Gilligan says he has no interest in seeing that happen and that it would be a sad tribute to the show, but he's also keeping an open mind, saying, "It's fun thinking about what would happen to the characters, but it doesn't rise to the level of, gee, I'd like to tell more about the story. But who knows, in a few years maybe?" Considering we got 5 seasons of Breaking Bad, 6 of Better Call Saul, plus the Jesse Pinkman vehicle El Camino, you can't blame Vince for wanting to move on. There are very few details on his next project, but it's an Apple TV Plus drama series that'll star Kim Rexler herself, Rhea Seehorn, and it's already greenlit for 2 seasons.
I'm Stella Chung, and that was your Weekly Fix. We'll be back here next Saturday with more of the biggest gaming and entertainment news. See you then!